transfer funds from miscellaneous equipment to office supplies. This is just to cover negative balance. We found that we've had to purchase a few more stuff that we characterize as office supplies as we're building out the office and getting busier. So we just need to move some money around to keep in the positive.
I'll move it.
Is there a second? Was there a second? Okay, got it. Is there any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Next resolution.
Next resolution is just to accept the $500 grant from the Bank of Greene County Charitable Foundation that we're going to earmark for some curriculum development at the training facility to start enhancing some of our classes, kind of updating some of the curriculum. So.
Kelly, are you getting them or do you want me?
I am.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thank you.
And the only other thing we got is just the activity report year to date. As of June 30th, we've responded to 27 fire-related calls, 3 calls in Origin, and 6 hazmat. And our training facility has been rather busy. We're currently at 430 hours for the tower and 2,952 hours for the classroom and various trainings there. So that's it, unless there's some questions.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
The fire up there at Solar Field, could you give
Yes.
us an update of how that worked out? What happened?
Well, there was a catastrophic failure to one of the pieces of equipment within the solar field, and it was one of the transformers in a confined building. So the fire was actually contained to that building and the contents of that same building, transformers, and fire suppression there. We didn't do any because it couldn't go anywhere. And we waited, approximately an hour for a technician to show up from Saugerties. And they came up and isolated the problem. NYSEG was there right away and isolated the solar farm from the rest of the main line. So it went as well as to be expected.
Okay,
Yep. No. No problem. Yeah. Yep.
Did any of the fumes or the smoke interfere with anybody else's?
Well, we think that some of the smoke may have come in the air handling system at Whittier because they had a fire and a motor at the same time at the assisted living. And when that fire alarm went in, the air handlers automatically shut down. But the nursing home out front, it didn't. So we think it may have got a little smoke in there, but it didn't seem to contaminate much of the building. We went in with meters, ventilated, and got everything out of there. Because the power went off shortly thereafter, and the generators kicked on, and the generators apparently don't run everything in the building. So we were able to isolate some of the stuff that way and just evacuate what little bit of smoke was in there.
So you're saying that the fire was actually in the building, not the panels themselves?
There was 2 fires. There was a fire in the solar farm, and there was a fire in the rooftop unit at the assisted living building. Electric motor.
But the one in the solar field was actually the panels. See, I misunderstood. I thought you said, when you started out, you said it was actually in a building.
It is. It wasn't in the panels. It was in a building on the solar farm.
Okay.
They have mechanical buildings in between so many rows of panels
Oh, I see.
that they're actually transformers that transform the DC voltage to AC voltage to do a bunch of other stuff. So
Did the building overheat because of the temperature?
no, there was an equipment malfunction.
Thank you.
No problem.
So
EMS.
we'll go to EMS.
How's everybody?
APJ.
How we doing?
Well, you
Okay, I have one resolution request. That would be to engage Fitch and Associates for a consulting contract for EMS. At our advisory board meeting last week, our EMS advisory board meeting, we talked a little bit about our CCMS program, and it was my recommendation that we're in our 12th year of this program. The program has been extremely successful over these 12 years. However, we're in kind of different times now as compared to where we were 12 years ago, as far as consumer demands, changes in protocols, changes in financial situations, especially staffing levels, the the wait times we're working with at the hospital now, that seems to have no end in sight at the moment. And on top of that, really our call volume has increased just dramatically. Over the last 10 years, our call volume in just CCEMS, which means, moving ambulances around the county and taking those calls when they're called for, over the last 10 years has increased 145%. And it's continuing to rise. So there is a consulting firm out there who's the best in the industry. This is what they do. They do EMS consulting. They come up with recommendations. They do studies. They'll actually come in and work with the agencies themselves, with the towns themselves. I've asked them to work with the hospital as well because of the demands received from the hospital, which they've agreed to. And they will come up with recommendations and suggestions on how we can improve the system that we have right now and make it more efficient, as well as operationally more efficient and cost effective for all the towns and all the participants involved, and while continuing to serve the residents of the county. So the contract for them is $49,000 plus travel expenses. There will be 5 of them that will come into the area. They will do an extensive interview with all the stakeholders involved, including 911, and come up with their recommendations. And it's projected that this would take approximately 5 months to complete. But I think it's well needed, and all the EMS agencies at the board, at our advisory board meeting, agreed to move forward with this. We currently have $250,000 allocated in our ARPA funds for EMS. And so I'd like to be able to take, and allocate 60,000 of this towards this study. It's a very extensive study. They just completed one for Wayne County. Wayne County has about 90,000 residents compared to our 60 or 65. It was a 64-page report that came out of that. It's very extensive, many recommendations. And we just want to make sure that our system is prepared for the next 12 years and have served the residents. So that's what I have.
Michael.
Yeah, PJ, thanks for bringing up this project. And I know that you've been talking about some of the challenges for the EMS system for years. So I think it's important that we address this in the critical service. I really wanted to hone in on your decision to recommend Fitch and Associates, which I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah.
And my default is to always do an RFP, and I feel like that way there's like a transparent process. But in lieu of that, I was trying to talk a little bit about your procurement process and some of the other companies that you might have interviewed, why you chose Fitch.
Basically, I chose Fitch because, again, they're the best in the industry. They do it nationwide. They have a large consulting staff of all EMS professionals involved. And they actually did our original study about 25 years ago. They're familiar with our county. They're familiar with our system. And I think in the long run would cost savings to the county. And like I said, they are the best.
What makes them the best?
Basically, they're proficient in what they do. They have extensive knowledge in the field, both from a professional aspect as well as a medical aspect. They have a staff of about 6 or 8 that are full-time, and this is all they do. And I'm not aware of anybody else that does that.
Okay, so they're really the only people we talked to.
Yeah.
And then what were some of the recommendations out of you said it was Wayne County?
Yeah.
What were some of the recommendations that they had?
I can send you the 64-page report. Okay. But they go through a lot of things, and I'll just give you some examples. They go through operations of medical transportation, medical accountability, customer community accountability, prevention and community education, governance, leadership, and human resources, system value. They talk to hospitals. They look at system response performance and a multitude of other areas. I'd be glad to send you that report.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to figure out what some of the actionable things that we take.
Well, we don't know yet, but they're going to come up with lots of recommendations. Make our heads spin, probably.
Brendan.
So if this were approved, would we do this between now and the end of the year? Would you try to
They
do it
would
this
start
year?
immediately. They
Yeah.
would start immediately, yes.
Anyone else, or is there a motion to adopt to support the resolution?
You know, PJ, I'd be curious, can you name 5 things that you think right off the top of your head that would be addressed, that would make a difference?
Probably everything that I just mentioned. I think one of the main things that we're looking at right now is the demand from not only from commercial establishments such as the hospital, the wait times associated with that, in which reduces sometimes our response times in the field, the staffing crisis that we have now in all the agencies whatsoever. We have administrative issues in some of the agencies. We have just, the world has changed. We're trying to incorporate telemedicine into the system. How do we do that effectively? We've started that at 911, but we haven't really pushed the envelope on that. However, that could be one of our large answers to keeping resources in service. And there's just a host of information that I believe will come out of this study, as well as location of ambulances. Some areas of the county are not serviced in such a timely manner as other areas. How do we resolve that? How do we do that efficiently and economically? So there's a lot of issues that I believe will help us with.
Thanks.
I'd love to. Oh, sorry. No, I was going to move the resolution. I'll let you ask another question if you had another question.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a sense of what the deliverables of the report are. Is it, you mentioned like location of ambulances. Are they going to say you need to change your location of ambulances, or they might say like you should move your ambulance to a specific location? Or you mentioned telemedicine. Would they say, would the recommendation just be like employ telemedicine, or would it say here's how you employ telemedicine in effectively in Columbia County? Have a bunch of data.
The answer is yes to all those questions. Okay, they will give us a whole list and host of questions and answers and recommendations. Okay, we'll basically lay out some of the problems. They'll discover some of the problems themselves, and they'll lay out these recommendations.
I'll second it.
Okay, I think Tisha was made the motion.
Yeah, I'd like to move the resolution.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
My resolution's adopted.
You're good, right?
Thank you.
Okay,
I have one more question,
sure.
if you don't mind. What is the average wait time at the hospital?
And
I know
that's-
that's a hard question. Give me a general idea.
Well, let's put it this way. Almost every day, at certain times of the day, there can be an hour to 2 hour delay. Okay, that isn't 24 hours a day. That can be certain times of the day.
An hour to 2 hours?
Yes. Yeah. And other days it will go on total diversion, which means
Just go somewhere else.
it would be better if you went somewhere else. However,
And who makes that decision?
the hospital.
So this hospital says we can't deal with you,
Right.
go to Albany.
Yeah. And, our discussions with the hospital is, you need to understand that it's a whole circle that we're working with here. They don't have staff enough they may have more beds in the ER, but they don't have staff enough to handle all the beds. So therefore, they have patients in the ER sometimes that need to go up to the floor. They have patients on the floor that need to go to a nursing home, but there's no room at the nursing home, so they can't transfer that patient. So therefore, they can't deplete the ER. It's a healthcare crisis. I've talked to Jay Cahalan and Dorothy Urschel, and we, as an advisory board, have offered our complete support in letter writing or whatever it needs to do to go to the state, because we're just, whatever we can do to help the situation, we're willing to help. We understand that it's
How
not
much
just
do you-
one issue.
How much do you think the community really knows what's going on?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty universal. It's not just CMH.
No,
I mean, we go to Albany Med and wait an hour, St. Peter's, any of those hospitals in the Albany area as well. It's a healthcare crisis. Yes, sir. Okay.
I have another topic. Used to be CMS has a newborn baby section. So now, very difficult. You have to go Albany. You see, this crisis is the moment has a newborn baby. I don't know how we solve this problem.
That you'd have to take up with the hospital. My
That
understanding.
is the biggest problem that I ever see that. That's the crisis.
Yeah.
So around over here, home hospital, I don't know how is the,
And I think that's a classic example of how the healthcare is changing. It's changing everywhere. Hospitals they've become specialty hospitals for certain things. From my understanding with the hospital and the discussions over the last couple of years, the volume for maternity was not there to attract the needed doctors that they needed to take care of that. And because most doctors are now in groups and the volume just wasn't there, so therefore they didn't feel as if they could do it effectively. But you'd have to have that discussion with them.
this is the biggest problem.
But
That's the
everything,
biggest problem.
healthcare is changing rapidly, and that's one of the reasons we want to do this study so we can try to keep ahead of it, or at least keep up.
EJ, I know this is not your issue, but just to your comment,
Brandon, can you speak a little louder?
that it's counterintuitive, because if you don't have a birthing center, the young people are going to factor that into their decision about whether or not to move here, because they can't have a baby closer to if they can't get health care. I've had several young people say to me.
Right.
Okay, anyone else? Otherwise, thank you, PJ.
Okay, thank you.
Gina, you're going back to the chair.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
You want to, where are you?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, we're ready.
And I was gonna join in on the link, so I apologize for
Yeah, no problem.
being late. I broke the law coming up speeding.
Don't admit it.
Jackie.
Listen, that's always how I do. That's a small one. I'll go for it.
Okay,
Make a citizens arrest.
All right.
The first three resolutions actually are identical. They are for three to fill three full-time budgeted deputy sheriff's positions. We have had, we started with an academy class of 7 people who went in. We are now down to 2. And so we prepare these requests as we receive notification that people are no longer going in, are continuing with the academy. So the first 3 are for those positions so that we can rehire and attempt to get some more people on the force here.
I'll move all 3 resolutions.
I'm second.
is there any further discussion? Otherwise, the motion to approve all 3 resolutions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All 3 resolutions are carried.
Thank you. Okay, so the next one is authorization to accept a highway safety grant. And the highway safety grant is in the amount of $5,000. It was submitted by one of our part-time deputies, Michael Regan, who helped us out with this BUT. So, and for this grant is part for, I think, seatbelt enforcement, PTS grant. So there are 3 components to it, but this is to accept the grant.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Oh, I lied. This one is the next one. My apologies. So this next one is for a police traffic services grant. That's in the amount of $31,320. And this one is for seatbelt mobilization enforcement in the amount of $4,800, and regular PTS enforcement in the amount of $26,520.
Move it.
I'll move it, Morel.
Second.
And
I hear a second.
this grant will be included in the 2023 budget. That will not happen this year.
Okay, thank you. The resolution has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is carried.
Thank you, thank you. This next resolution was at the request of the comptroller, Jim Bragg, where we needed to move money from one account to another. We were awarded a police traffic services grant in the amount of $29,250, and it was put in a .4, and it needed to be moved to a .1. So this is just budget neutral and transferring funds, and that is for this year.
I said that. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is carried.
And the next one is the same. It was at the request of the comptroller, Jim Bragg, to move money from one spot to another. This is a second chance grant that we got for work in the jail, I believe, right? I think this is the one. Yeah, this is for work that we had done in the jail.
That's
Bottom half of the text incorrect, where it says the decreased revenue section.
Let's moving it from one,
You're moving 35,000 or?
yes.
You're increasing the revenue?
No, just transferring from one account to another. It's budget neutral.
Someone move it?
I'll move it, Hoagland.
Sorry, that one's partly incorrect.
I think it's I read that as like it's increasing revenue, but it's just.
Right, it's like moving, right, it's taking 35,000 of that 505,000
Yeah,
and putting it in the revenue and appropriation account.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the controller signed it, so he knows what he's doing, but.
Yeah, and the verbiage just says the budget needs to be amended to match the grant award period. So
Right.
it's just cleaning things up.
So somebody moved it?
Second.
I'll second it, Morel.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I have a question.
Resolution adopted, but a question?
What is that? What does that do?
So we, one of the things that we had done was a mural, a huge mural done in the jail. And, you know, I think there's some additional funds there. We want to do a chalkboard wall for children when they come in. Because eventually we're going to start in-person visitation again. And so this is really to enhance the visitation areas for families and people that come in.
So all that money is used for enhancing the building?
Yes. We've done quite a bit in there, actually. Actually,
By all that money,
That seems like a lot of money.
by all that money, do you mean the 35,000?
Yeah, it's just 35,000.
Oh, just
for that.
35.
If you,
So what is the other stuff? What's the other part of it used for?
of the 500,000?
Yeah, of the
she's asking.
500,000, what do you? Okay.
that's beyond my pay grade.
I can answer,
Does
I can
anybody
answer
know?
part of that. Let me put my other hat on, okay?
Yeah.
That, I believe it's a 3-year grant and it's used for inpatient or inmate services from mental health, so on and so forth. It's gonna be a lot of that money will be used for that.
Tistria has her hand up.
Oh, Tishia.
I just had a question / idea maybe to bring back to the sheriff since Jackie said it's above her pay grade. I know there's a big need for the tablets and the internet access, and especially for children to be able to interact with their parents. So I'm wondering, I mean, 505,000 minus the 35, you have a good chunk of money there. Could there be some conversations about potentially using some of that grant funding to be able to give children access to online communications with their parents?
So we've already had conversations with 2 providers about tablets coming in. I think GTEL, I call it GTEL. I'm not exactly sure that that's the correct pronunciation for the company. We think that is thank you. We think that is the best for us. And so having tablets come into the facility is provided at 0 cost to us. They come in, they run the wiring, they do the tablets. The cost is transferred over to the incarcerated individual. So if you want to FaceTime with your children, you can do that. If you want to send pictures, there's an additional cost. I'm not certain what it is, but I think it's minimal. Well, I say minimal to us. I'm sure it's a lot for some of the family members that are in there. But the cost to implement tablets in the facility is at no cost to the county.
But I thought the reason that we hadn't done it yet is we were waiting for state legislation to come down that might not allow us to charge the incarcerated individuals. So either that's been worked out, which is great news, and I hope that that happens right away. But my thought was if that was preventing us from getting them because we didn't know how we were going to pay for them, because that's what the sheriff had communicated in my last conversation with him, was that we're ready to go, but we're just waiting to hear on legislation, because if we can't charge the incarcerated individuals, it's a very expensive cost and we don't have it budgeted. Has that been worked out, or are we still waiting?
That has been worked out. The legislation, so it was proposed, the legislation was proposed, it was not approved.
Wonderful. So that's in motion. We'll have tablets in the jail within a short time.
I don't know what length of time it will take them to get things up and running, but yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
The next resolution is to have a vehicle declared surplus property and to go to the auction. It's a 2012 Chevy Impala.
I'll move it, Morel.
A second,
Counselor.
discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Next,
And likewise, for a vehicle to go to surplus property and the auction, a 2013 Chevy Tahoe.
I'll move it.
Michael, is there a second?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Resolution is adopted.
you. Again, this is radio equipment, however, to go to surplus property and sent to the county auction because it's no longer operable. It doesn't operate correctly.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Michael. Second,
I'm good.
Alpers. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Thank you. The next one is a request for us to enter into renewal agreements for school resource deputies with Taconic Hills, Ichabod Crane, Germantown, Chatham, Hudson, and New Lebanon school districts.
I move it.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Otherwise, the resolution, the motion has been made in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you, Jackie. Anything else?
We have an out-of-county inmate report. That's the last thing. So, an increase in revenue from last year. Last year, end of June, we had $12,300 from out-of-county funds, and then this year we have $44,115. That's housing inmates for Greene, U.S. Marshals, Putnam, and Rensselaer counties.
Any comments or questions?
Question for Jen.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you have a timeline on visits? Asking.
I don't. I just learned Friday. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what event I was at where we had a number of different sheriff's offices represented that they have begun in-person meetings. We were at the Commission of Corrections just recently lifted the mask mandate for inside the jail literally last week. So now we're at the part where we have to do a sit down. The sheriff's going away at the sheriff's conference. So we're going to have a discussion about when we can begin that the in-person meetings again. I think we have to. So the Commission of Corrections gave us verbal approval. We need something in writing before we can make that happen. But I'm presuming it will be soon.
Okay.
Anything further? Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And next is emergency management.
Thank you. We don't have any resolutions to present to the committee. We have our activity report, and I'll certainly answer any questions about that. And I also have a few things that I'd like to inform the committee about. The first item is the governor's executive order number 18 that she issued recently that requires every county to have a group of people that will put together a plan for domestic terrorism within the county. And again, this is every county in New York State has to have this. It has to be presented to New York State by December 31st of this year. Along with that, there has to be a team put together for going on into the future that would now analyze the domestic terrorism situation in the county. We've already started putting together a work group, which will include Madam Chairperson, Chairwoman Metler, and Supervisor Lagonia, someone from County Mental Health, certainly all the emergency services agencies, MIS, County MIS. I'm hoping that, we'll be able to monitor in some form what's going on the internet, if possible. I don't even know if that's possible yet. And Craig Hansen from Questar, who may represent all the schools, although we have sent out requests for someone to volunteer from school administrations in each district. That may not be realistic for them to be able to attend the meeting. We haven't started the meetings yet because we reached out to see if there would be guidance that would be coming from the state. And the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services has said there will be guidance coming. So we don't want to start something and then have to do it over if we don't do it correctly. We reached out, Kelly reached out to other counties, and I think everybody is waiting for the guidance at this point. Also, as a result of a meeting that we had in this room about a month ago that Supervisor Lagonia put together, it was I think a special work group meeting of public safety supervisors, schools, the sheriff and the undersheriff attended, and I was asked to attend. It's obvious that the schools want to have drills, active shooter drills with multiple agencies. This was happening before the pandemic, and it would take, multi-agency drills would take upwards of several months to plan. So as a result of this meeting, we got together. Emergency management is typically the agency that they look to organize these multiple agency drills with the schools. We got together with the EMS and fire coordinators and most of the police agencies in the county. And we were able to come up with a plan that allows us to streamline what we're going to do in planning these active shooter drills. We found that the objectives don't change in each drill. However, obviously the location changes. So we moved forward on that, and I think in the future we'll be able to plan these hopefully within 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, plan a drill. And again, we're talking about multiple agencies from New York State, local agencies. It hasn't been uncommon for us to have federal agencies that actually come to these drills. And also, what's not on here is we've secured Tier 3 emergency management training. It'll be at the Emergency Services Response and Training Facility, October 13th. It's on our website. If you haven't gone to it, if you're a public official, you haven't gone to it, it's a good 3-hour training to attend because it explains the emergency management process. New York State sends an instructor, and New York State actually instructs it, and it's a very good training to attend. So that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Nothing? Any questions?
Just share my appreciation for the training that you're doing. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, it's going to be important, and every, the the training has been done in the past at all the school districts. However, with obviously the pandemic, that hasn't been able to happen, but everybody's eager. All the emergency services agencies are eager to start doing it again. And, they've all been doing it in their own entities, within their own agencies, but this again, we'll be able to pull it all together. So it should be a good training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
911.
Evening, everyone. I have 4 resolutions for you tonight, which are all grants. The first one is request authorization to accept the 2020 hazmat grant totaling $44,300, dispersed in accordance with state homeland security and emergency services guidelines. No match required. Budget requested for September 1st of this year through August 31st of 2023. The grant will provide funds for maintenance and calibration of hazmat equipment and provide funds to purchase outdated equipment in order to maintain capabilities.
Is there a motion?
I have a question. So,
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
appreciate you getting these grants. I know we've talked about them. I don't have a hard time following it all. But the reason why this is fiscal year 2020 is that there was a delay for a few years to get the money.
Correct.
So catching up.
Correct. And that's why there's a short performance period also. They have to close it out within 3 years of when it was supposed to come out. So the other ones will follow quickly, hopefully.
I'll
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Request authorization to accept the 21-22 hazardous materials emergency preparedness grant totaling $15,789. There is a local match of up to $3,947.25 and dispersed in accordance with the state homeland security and emergency services guidelines. Budget requested for September 1st of this year through August 31st of 2023. Grant will provide funds to hire a consultant to conduct training for the Columbia Green Regional Hazmat Team. Move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted.
Request authorization to accept the 22 state homeland security grant totaling $26,821 and dispersed in accordance with the state homeland security and emergency services guidelines. There is no match required. Budget requested for September 1st of 22 through August 31st of 2025. These funds are designated to build and sustain critical homeland security capabilities across the state. The grant will provide funds for miscellaneous items that departments need. One in which particular is notable is a cybersecurity. We're going to be using funds for things to support cybersecurity, which was actually listed on our CIFA report to the state as the #1 highest priority for the county.
What are those things that we're doing with cybersecurity?
Tokens, different cybersecurity measures in place. If you want the list. Try to remember all the different items. I worked with Chris Sweet from MIS, and we came up with a list, a prioritized list from him based on things that they've been reviewing. It includes tokens, replacing outdated servers, some software to help recognize intrusion, and there was a couple other miscellaneous server items.
What is the token? Or I should ask Chris.
Tokens are a unit. It basically is something similar to a fob, but it has numbers that keep cycling. And in order for you to gain access to a particular system, you have to actually input the number off the token in order to gain access. So it stops wrongful intrusion.
It's usually used with financials. A
Yes.
lot.
Okay, I've lost track. Did we get a motion?
We do not have a motion.
Okay, is there a motion? Michael, is there a second?
second of those.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted.
Request authorization to accept the 2022 Emergency Management Performance Grant totaling $28,792. There is a match of up to 50% and dispersed in accordance with state Homeland Security and Emergency Service guidelines. Budget requested for October 1st. That's incorrect. Well, actually, no, it isn't. The period of performance was 2021, even though we just were awarded through September 30th of 2024. The grant provides funds to assist local emergency management agencies to implementation of the National Preparedness System and the National Preparedness Goal of a secure and resilient nation.
Michael, second.
Okay.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Anything else?
Agency data for 2022. Our call volume, which was incoming calls, was 4,518 calls. We dispatched 1,335 EMS agencies, 373 fire agencies, 2,288 police polls, and 521 public service calls. The other item I just wanted to bring up as information is the tower project. After the seeker was completed, we were off running, and currently we are held up for a minority and women-owned business waiver, which was submitted roughly March for the geo subsurface analysis proposal. So we're kind of waiting, even though we're hoping to get this done pretty quickly to try to finish the project within a timely manner and according to the grant funds. Currently, I've been in contact with the state many times to kind of find out where we are with the waiver. And we're still in a holding pattern. So just information at this point. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, who's presented for probation?
I am actually.
Okay,
They're looking to enter into a lease agreement, with Quantity Leasing for a, postage meter. It's obvious for them to run letters through, and it does save a little bit of money as far as postage goes.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, please say
Aye.
opposed. Very controversial resolution. is adopted. Okay, public defender.
One resident, requesting just permission to employ a part-time unpaid law student, for the month of July. He, just assisting under the supervision of other assistant public defenders. It's a good experience. We've done it every year. Good experience for the young men and women to get, acclimated to the law, and helps us out a little bit. And especially with the trouble we've been having trying to find attorneys, it's never too hard recruiting.
Another controversial.
I'll move it.
Second? Any
Nice.
question? Yeah. It's moving, any discussion, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And, thank you. And as far as our reports, number of applications for the month of June 2022 is 128. That's almost identical to the previous year. 97 cases closed, current caseload of 1,414. In regards to the counsel at first arraignment attorneys, they did 18 arraignments, and my staff
and I conducted 91, call it regular business hour arraignments for the month of June. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Are there any questions from the public? I don't know. Is there any public on?
No, they're not virtual.
Okay.
They'd have to be here.
And is there any further discussion to the committee? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just getting officially good.
Okay, so that's right.
Okay, I'll just start with, I have one resolution request, and this is to transfer funds from our professional services line item to office supplies and papers, and it's basically, I didn't budget enough in the primarily paper supplies for, this year with additional costs and having to order a little more paper than we normally would. So I want to move some of that money over to get us through the rest of the year, I'm hoping.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Thank
We have
you.
a question?
I did. Isn't this one of those resolutions under $10,000 that we wouldn't have to approve going forward?
But we haven't adopted that yet, so.
I thought we did.
Right, is that right, Kelly?
Right, it's coming to finance.
Jim wants to bring
Okay,
a
so
change
we're a
in the
step
process,
away. We're
so he could handle this without bringing it to
in the
committee.
future. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Just ahead of myself.
Yeah.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
But I like that idea, not having to.
So do I.
Yeah.
Resolutions.
I bet you do. And just a few updates. So Town of Claverick has a new assessor. The assessor that they appointed short term after their assessor passed away, they have appointed now permanently to finish out the 6-year term, and that's Lynn Hotailing. So now in Columbia County, we have a total of 9 assessors. And I've said it before, when I started back in 92, there were over 50. So it's become more of a career for many of the assessors.
So still here for Stuyvesant, all right, it was gonna be a fight, you know?
Yeah, you got it, Stuyvesant, Ghent.
Yeah.
Claverick and Copley. She's a good, very good assessor. We're fortunate with the assessors that we have. Also, I believe I mentioned this at a previous meeting, but it has been confirmed. We are going to be doing the tax bills for Germantown and New Lebanon schools this year. It'll bring in a little bit of extra revenue to the county that we weren't anticipating. But I think those schools will go well, and everything should work out. But that means that we're doing the full county again, like we do at town and county tax time. So we'll be processing roughly, anywhere from 33 to 36,000 tax bills in August. So
The school districts, do they pay for that service?
they do. Yeah, they do. And I increased it a few years ago, but we're still low in comparison to some of the others. So I'll look at it again in the future, but we've worked out good. We actually have a virtual meeting coming up the week after next with the school collectors, just to go through some collection procedures with them. So I'm not sure, who has noticed their town equalization rate for this year, but the majority of the town's equalization rates dropped considerably. Like a rock. And that's, that's due to the real estate market and the trends that the state established were for the entire county were anywhere from 17 to 20%. So, like Kinderhook, I think you guys were at 96 or 97 last year, and you're at 79, somewhere around that this year. So some assessors have just asked some informal questions about, maybe doing some trending or something next year, but I'm sure they'll be talking with their municipalities about that. We can assist with some of that. We can assist with applying that to the file.
You're just not saying we're gonna do 100% reval again for everybody?
In 4 to 5 years, when,
Okay.
the towns that are in that cycle,
Right.
that's when they'll do it. But you wouldn't have to do a full reval like in Claverick's
Flower, we
case,
just did it, right.
because you only have to visit the parcel once every 6 years or so. So that part of it wouldn't have to be done again. But that's why if you have done a reassessment within the last couple of years, your file should be pretty clean, and you should be able to trend based on, trend residential sales, and maybe even by neighborhood or that kind of thing.
Can you?
Claremont did trending this year.
Agrees to trend, right?
If the assessor agrees to trend, it's a rough thing to do every year with this kind of a market. We used to do the annual reassessing every year in our county for quite a while. And then we were hit with September 11th of 2001, and the market started exploding after that, like this. So, and I was just looking at some sales this afternoon, and there's still bidding wars out there so the sales that will be used for next year's valuation, there's still, because there's not enough properties for sale, in our area, and we live in a beautiful area. Everybody wants to
Can
come
you
here.
explain, I've had a lot of people question me, and they come complaining, it's not about the town taxes or county taxes, it's the school taxes that shot way up.
Well, it's the
That's where they're
school
having-
tax, but I have to say, the schools in our county primarily have been staying within the tax cap as
That's
well.
what I thought.
Yeah,
But
so
yet they
they,
seem to go up, the increase a lot of them.
right, well, you'll see, because school and county, when you apportion the overall tax levy between each municipality, the equalization rates will come into play. So there could be some shifting around in tax rates this year because of those drops in the equalization rates. But the majority of the municipalities did drop. You know, this is the first time in such a long
Actually
time.
had a tax reduction, most of the towns stayed flat or maybe 2%, schools are up 3 or 4%. So,
Right.
you know.
In the schools, if you do that every year for the last 5-6 years, it starts to add up.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't really speak to
I understand that.
that, but I see the change in levy on the school bill from year to year, and the schools tell me that they're staying within the tax cap, but that tax cap, you know, you can add certain things as part of that, so it's not really 2% like it was originally, you know.
Oh, okay.
And also most neighbors or residents don't understand the equalization.
Right.
So that's a lot of the confusion.
Yeah. And it's the, you know, the difference between the assessed value versus what that property could sell in the market.
Well, I
So-
always tell them, I said, you've been getting away with not paying your fair share all these years. So
Well,
just let
and-
catch up time on some of them.
That's it. The main goal of doing a townwide reassessment is equity and having everybody pay their fair share, but assessing everyone in a similar manner and collecting the data in a similar manner. Is it perfect? I've never said it was. It's not. There's still gonna be properties out there that, you know, may not be assessed for what they have for whatever reason. It wasn't collected, you know, entirely correctly, whatever, but,
Thank you.
yeah.
Towns ever contest the equalization rate?
Years ago, yes, occasionally towns do. It's, there's not much success rate, I don't think. But back in 94, when the county did a full, countywide reval, they contested the EQ rates back then. And I remember that was a huge thing. And I've seen other towns do it since then, but not in our county in quite a while.
It's pretty much forecast. The assessors can tell.
Yeah, they can tell. They see,
Yeah.
there's no doubt that this is what the market's showing. The other thing is there's a 5% factor with these equalization rates also. So even if a town was at 96 last year, they may have only really been at 92 or 93, you know, in the equation. So that happens also. And just the 2023 projects that we're assisting with, Ancrum and Stockport, we just are finishing up this week with the data verification in Ancrum. The data is still being entered, and Stockport has already been collected. Canaan and Lebanon are doing their own collection, and they have a contractor for the valuation. The GAR will be doing the valuation for Ancrum and Stockport for their reassessment projects next year. After that, I don't have any towns that have requested. I think the only municipality left right now that hasn't done a full, but after 2023 with data collection and everything is Livingston. So within the last 5-6 years, every municipality has done. So it will be quiet for a while, but we may be assisting, with trending if the towns, you know, wish to do that for as much as we can. And I forgot to mention the state aid for the 2021 projects, Claverick. I've got the amounts there. Germantown, what they will be receiving. I don't know if you've received that check yet.
I haven't seen it.
But I know the letter, you know, was issued a while ago. They say you could receive up to $5 per parcel, and it would be a nice incentive, you know, if it were at $5. But right now, what those towns received was $2.17 per parcel. That's the lowest I've seen it in a while. Last year for the
$3 a few years ago or something.
yeah, the 2020 The 2020 reassessments got $3.37
What
per
causes it to
per parcel.
fluctuate?
It's, the problem is there's only so much money to divvy up between all of the municipalities that are doing
So
reassessments.
the
more
do it,
that
the
do
less
them, the less you get paid. Yeah,
So pick your year.
You
carefully.
gotta pick that year.
That's why Jimmy's
Do a
not.
survey.
that's why 2020 was the highest we've seen it in a
And
while
technically, it was
because,
looking good. There were only 4 of us.
Yeah.
well, not
No.
countywide.
No.
You're looking at the whole state.
State,
That's the issue. So that's it. Does anybody
Any
have any other
questions?
questions?
Thank you.
No? All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
And now planning is on the agenda. Very busy agenda tonight, so.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Very good.
Okay, I have, 3 resolution requests tonight. The first, is authorization to appoint a non-voting agency representative to the Columbia County Environmental Management Council representing the Department of Health, Kara Becker. It's a reappointment. She's been serving for a number of years.
So, second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. The second is authorization to appoint a member to the Environmental Management Council. This would be a representative for the town of Canaan. It's also a reappointment for Sheriff Crowell.
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Okay, the third is authorization to undertake Columbia County Vulnerability Assessment and Climate Adaptation Plan. This, I just want to thank Tara Donadio from the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. She brought this opportunity to the task force chair to help advance the county climate smart community goals. And they're offering to provide free support services to municipalities under, I believe it's a contract with DEC. The task force voted to recommend this to you at a special meeting last week, and the resolution was prepared by the task force chair. So just to give you a little background, the county completed various climate smart community actions and certification last month. And we don't have a decision from DEC yet whether we'll receive the bronze certification, but that is pending. And the Vulnerability Assessment and Climate Adaptation Resiliency Plan, the CARP, are additional actions under the CSC program, and it's not linked to the bronze certification at all. And as explained to me in the meetings, the CARP and the vulnerability assessment would be prepared by Cornell Cooperative Extension. And they're under contract. I'm not sure if they're contracted with DEC or the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. But the plan would be for the county and would also include a minimum of 7 towns, or that's the goal from that Tara Donadio presented us with, my understanding. And also she presented that the planning department would be tasked with providing various data sets and technical assistance in preparation of the study, the full extent of which I'm not really sure at this point. But the arrangement, I believe, is part of a pilot program with DEC, and they're saying it would be of no cost to the county other than planning department staff time. So I certainly understand the value of planning and analysis and recognize the importance of these actions as part of the Climate Smart Community Program that the county pledged to participate in. But I do have some questions as it relates to our department. And I did pose these at the meeting and they were discussed, but I still don't really have all the answers that I was seeking. So there's a county plan. At this point, it's unclear how all of the towns would participate and how that outreach would occur, because not all of the towns in the county have adopted the Climate Smart Community Pledge. Many have, but all of them have not. And the other concern with the plans for the towns is that the county doesn't have the authority over municipal assets. That lies solely with the towns under home rule authority. So, and the towns, they are varied, and from the city of Hudson to Austerlitz, and their goals and their that they would have for their climate smart actions are varied, and I'm not sure how that would all be incorporated. Secondly is the funding with the no cost to the county. The funding is coming through DEC, and I believe I'm not sure if it's going through the Capital District Regional Planning Commission to Cornell or directly to Cornell, but the Cornell actually receives funding, as you're aware, from the county. So it was unclear on how that would mesh. The third are the roles and responsibilities between the task force and the county departments, Cornell and the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. I'm not really clear on how the oversight would be handled. As planning department was one of the primary resources that were identified in the county to provide data for the plan. And we weren't really involved in the initial introduction of this, the planning department. I found out that we were going to be involved heavily with this at the meeting. So I'm just not clear on what our level of involvement would be. And also where the task force coordinator role would be as far as the preparation of this plan.
Yeah, Patricia, can I make a suggestion? And I thank you for bringing up those questions. I wasn't on the task force meeting as I was out of town when that got brought up, so I didn't get to discuss some of these questions. I know you did, but I do agree with you. There's some questions here. The main concern, the question is two things really, is that they are saying Cornell can do this for us. I think they can, as you know, that we fund Cornell quite heavily. We haven't seen Cornell in a long time. They've had a leadership change. Kelly has arranged for somebody from Cornell to come next week to the Economic Development Committee. And I think that we should let that person come introduce themselves and explain how they can help us with this if they're interested in helping. This plan does seem to revolve around the fact that the county is going to be mingling in town zoning laws and comprehensive plans, and we can't do that. So we need to restructure that resolution in two ways. One is to just concentrate on county assets. You know, if we want to look at the vulnerability of a county bridge or culvert that might be affected by climate change, we can certainly do that, but we're not going to do that for the city of Hudson's wastewater treatment plant type of examples. So, and I don't know if we, to take a quick look at the resolution that was prepared, that's just a boilerplate resolution. But if we were to go through there and say, it's not the task force that's doing it, but it's the county coordinator that's doing some of these tasks, because some of these jobs need to be done by the county, you know, not volunteers. So I would suggest that that got modified a little bit. But first, I'd like to wait until bring it to let Cornell come to economic development and make that presentation. We can ask some of these questions to your questions about how this program would get funded and work, you know, at that moment in time. Yes, Brian.
So,
Mr. has her hand up as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
so what I was going to say is a couple of things. Patrice, we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow. I think you're invited to the meeting. We
Yes, I am.
requested the meeting. So the committee should know that this meeting is scheduled for Wendy, Patrice, Jolene, and any other interested members of the task force to ask and answer these questions.
Okay.
So that we would have some clarification, because my understanding is that I can't do the acronym.
Yeah.
Tara's organization is the source of the grant. That's the
Right.
agency that we would apply to. DEC is the source of the funding. And that DEC has hired Cornell, a specific employee or employees at Cornell for this project. So the people that we've been working with at Cornell may or may not be involved in this, because this is a specific scope of work that's being funded for this project.
But we're funding Cornell to have $1 million a year. They should be able to have some answers for us. And I think they can. They just haven't been here.
Right, but I
because
think this
they've
is
had
in addition to whatever we've asked them to do in the past. This is something this is a new scope of work that's been defined by DEC.
Okay.
And DEC has defined that scope of work and asked them, and has agreed to underwrite or to pay the cost for that work. But I think all of Patrice's questions will be hopefully answered tomorrow in this conversation. And this resolution was not prepared by the chairman of the task force. It's a template that was prepared by the Capital Region Planning District Authority or Association. So it
Well, it wasn't really prepared by any of us. That was a boilerplate resolution.
It was
for a
prepared as,
suggestion,
it was a point of conversation. This is
Yeah.
how do we have this conversation?
So
So,
it's not prepared for us to be voting on tonight anyway. So, that's my point.
well,
is
I
that-
was gonna get to that. What I
Yeah.
was gonna say is I think there would be a greater comfort level if we had this meeting tomorrow and answered these questions and then come back. And if there are other questions of this committee that should be added to Patrice's questions, we can include those in the conversation tomorrow. But I think this is the other thing that there are two other points I would make. And that the first is, this is a new program, and everybody knows when there's a new program with the state, there are often unanswered questions. So I think Patrice is absolutely correct that we need to define the lines of authority and responsibility to fully understand what our role would be. And I think that many of the supervisors that were on the task force call said that in the event that this should turn out to be, the heavy lift should be with the planning department as opposed to Cornell, that we would want to withdraw or pull back from this because we don't want to overtax any department. And that.
Let's get some answers and bring it back.
So we're tabling it as we're speaking.
Tiffany wants to speak.
She's on virtually.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Mary?
I just wanted to clarify, at the special meeting, it was asked about town participation, and town participation is completely voluntary. So it's not like towns have to participate. They also don't have to be a climate smart community to participate. So if we had a town in the county that wanted to participate and has not yet joined the Climate Smart Communities program, they would still have the opportunity to participate. And there was the question asked of, what's the threshold? How many towns would have to participate to make it worth it? Tara threw out the number of 10, and then they said, well, what if we don't get 10? She said, then you have 6. And I know at least 4 of the towns on that meeting said, my town's interested. So I do agree that we want to make sure that we understand, the lines of, who's doing the work, how much work is the planning department going to need. My understanding is really the planning department is just going to be relied upon to provide data that they already have, which if each town in the county did this separately, which New Lebanon was already on the way to doing, we're still going to be coming to Patrice's department for some of that data. So I don't know that doing it through the county actually makes it more work. I think it probably makes it less. And our intention with being a climate smart county, a major part of our focus is supporting towns and their efforts. And there are quite a few towns that really would love for the county to support them in this way. And to be part of a pilot program where the funding is provided, the professionals are provided. I think it's a really great opportunity. And while I don't disagree that Patrice's questions should be answered, I just wanted to clarify with what Patrice said earlier, that it is not every town in the county. It's okay if they're not a climate smart community. And if the county passes the resolution to participate, resolutions would then go to each and every town in the county, and it would be up to that town board to then decide if they were signing on under this program as well, just to clarify. Thank you.
Important distinction. So it would be open to all towns, but not all towns would be required to participate. So no one would be denied the opportunity to participate if they chose to participate.
So
yeah.
Picturing then more, so in the data that was given to us, and I've only read it, I haven't talked to anybody about it yet, but it says that, to review a comprehensive plan and zoning to try and mitigate, climate change. That you're relying on each town to do that the county is going to have no involvement in that at all, because we have no jurisdiction or authority to do that. So I assume that the town is just going to take on that task as a joining member.
Yeah, I think once the county passes the resolution to support the towns in these efforts and basically provide this professional, each town's plan is going to be different. New Lebanon's plan is not going to look the same as Hudson's. So that's where each town's either task force, or if they're not part of Climate Smart, they form a committee or however they want to do it through their planning department. And obviously New Lebanon's comprehensive plan is different from your comprehensive plan. So those specifics that are town specific are going to be worked on with the town. So the gist of the program as it was presented at the special meeting is that the county's really contracting and overseeing to provide this professional. The county is going to be relied on to provide some data, which again, the towns would look for anyway if we were doing it on our own. And then the towns are going to do more work to individualize what each of their towns need.
Policy and action and goals that come out of this are gonna be all town related, not county related.
And I see this as a town that's interested as a process. I can follow the example of the county. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can better understand what's required to work through this process. And the other advantage as a town would be that we would have access to the Cornell support at no charge because we piggyback on the county's access.
I'd like to hear that from Cornell, exactly. They've done this so they can explain this program to us.
And we probably need to understand it from DEC, who is contracting with Cornell.
Yeah.
I wanted to add that, we didn't do this specific program, but when I was with the city of Hudson, we worked with Cornell on several different sort of climate smart related reports. I found that they were super easy to work with. They were really helpful. They knew what they were doing. They brought a lot of expertise, and they did their heavy lifting. It was not hard to that. So I would only say that they have a good success track record at providing technical assistance to municipalities in the county. So I think that I agree that we need to work out those details, but I would say that I'm pretty confident that those details can be worked out, and it seems like a good opportunity for the towns and for the city to get some free HR low cost support.
I do. I mean, I've worked with Cornell to do a vulnerability assessment of, streams and culverts in the town of Stuyvesant, for these types of things that separate up for funding, and that's part of what they're doing. The other thing that was mentioned in the plan, I did talk with David Harris, Harrison from Emergency Management. This talks about the hazard mitigation plan. We already have that. That is set to be redone next year. We're in a 5-year cycle with that, as they suggest. And so I think that Cornell should cooperate, talk with them too, because they've already done that. They've already applied for FEMA funding to redo that. So I don't know if the Cornell project is looking at our 2018 hazard mitigation plan, or are they looking to redo it?
It's already been brought up as a reference tool, and I talked to David about it today, earlier this afternoon. So I think this is the adaptation and resiliency plan would build on the mitigation plan. They have different objectives, but certainly it would be a useful data point for them to use as part of
it. Exists. I just don't want to duplicate service.
Right, exactly.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to table it.
I would make a motion, we table it and get some more information.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, carried.
Thank you very much.
That's it?
That's it.
Thank you, Patricia.
Next time.
Thank you for an extraordinary climate smart carnival. I think everybody that's involved should be thanked for that. So
I guess it's a huge success. That's wonderful news.
That's it, right?
Thank you.
That's it, Chris.
we can have someone waiting.
Come on up, Chris.
Thank you. So I have one letter that I'd like to discuss, but I think we need to go into executive session to do that because it involves litigation.
I'm sorry, who's second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can county government meeting back to order?
I guess motion.
You need a motion?
No, I don't know. Yeah.
Need a motion to go back to our regular meeting?
Motion.
We're in the right.
Okay.
No, motion to adjourn.
So are you done?
You want to adjourn?
Adjourn.
It's Chris set, as I'm asking. We don't need anything else. You're
Is
set.
that we're not?
All right, need a motion to adjourn. Wait a minute, got it.
Second.
No, adjourning.
Okay.
All in favor, aye.
Okay. I'm like, wait a minute.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I think that took too long, and that's why we didn't want